Should probably go anyway, up close you can see blood.
We're fine.
No. I really don't think I am. I'm Marin.
I'm Lee.
I don't know whether to cry or scream or laugh or what.
Don't scream.
I thought I was the only one.
Cannibalism in horror has traditionally always been related to grotesque and often shocking storytelling. Films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, and Wrong Turn has set the standard for what a movie that has to do with cannibalism can be about. They usually focus on the violence, survival, or even the extreme horror. The movie we are diving into today, called Bones and All, takes a different approach. It blends horror with romance and coming-of-age themes. Romance horror is a subgenre in horror where it blends horror and romance, often exploring love in eerie, supernatural, or even dangerous settings. By far, romance horror is the most niche-down subgenre in horror. These films aren't usually made, but when they are, they gather a cult following and they tend to do alright at the box office. Bones and All mixes horror, romance, and cannibalism all in one into a unique and unsettling love story. Most cannibal movies depict eating human flesh as pure savagery, but Bones and All depicts it as a means of survival. At its core, Bones and All is a romance between two outcasts, Marin and Lee, who both struggle with an uncontrollable urge to eat human flesh. While their love story is genuine, it only exists within the horrific reality of their condition. The relationship humanizes them, making the viewers somewhat sympathize with them despite their monstrous nature. Rather than portraying cannibalism as a shocking horror element, the film treats it as a deeply personal struggle, more like an addiction or a condition the main characters were both born with. The film starts with a teenage girl named Marin, played by Taylor Russell, living with her father in a small town. One night, when she was at a sleepover, she bites off the finger of a girl, revealing her hidden nature as a cannibal. Both her father and her immediately fled the town they were staying in. Soon after, her father abandoned Marin, leaving behind only a cassette tape explaining her past and her mother's history with the same condition she had. Alone and desperate for answers, Marin sets off into a journey to find her mother. While along the way, she got to meet a man named Sully. Sully was a very odd man who was also an eater like her. He was the main person that taught her about their kind, showing how he can smell others like them from the distance. Sully told Marin that he doesn't kill people, but instead waits for people to die naturally before eating them. At first, Marin was intrigued to learn more about her kind, but then she becomes uncomfortable with his obsessive behavior. The moment they met, Sully became overly attached to Marin, speaking to her in an oddly way despite barely knowing her. Sully also carried around a rope of hair from his past victims as a personal trophy, which she found deeply disturbing. This showed that Sully's obsession with people extended beyond to just eating them. He fixated on them in a possessive way, and that's why she decided to leave him. Marin later in the movie met Lee, played by Timothée Chalamet, who was also an eater, just like her. Unlike Sully, Lee was young, but he also struggled with his urges. Both of them bond over their shared condition and troubled past. Lee learned to survive on his own, drifting from town to town, Unlike Marin, he has fully accepted his nature, but still fights with guilt over his actions. His experiences made him a tough person, but beneath it all, he was caring and deeply lonely. They both travel across the country enjoying their company and on finding Marin's mother. There was at one point where they encountered other eaters. The two eaters they met in the woods left them in fear. They came off as unsettling. The older man was a cannibal and the other just partakes on eating people willingly. The older man told them that one time they ate a person fully, bones and all. Marin began to realize that not all cannibals are like her. Some actually enjoy the act of eating people without remorse. The man who wasn't born with a condition and just willingly enjoys eating other people is what drove Marin to get away from them. Same thing for Lee. He didn't trust them. Lee firmly rejects their way of life and was ready to leave at first given opportunity, and so they did. A similar situation happened when Lee killed off a married man because Marin was getting hungry. Lee chose to go after this man because he was being a bad person to the customers at the carnival. Lee only fed on people he thought they actually deserved it. When Marin saw that the man from the carnival had a family just a few feet away from his house, she was completely horrified and emotionally shaken. While she understood Lee's reasoning for killing the man, she felt disturbed and begins to question whether they can ever live a normal life. Each encounter forces them to think about what kind of person they want to be in this world. Marin in particular struggles with morality of their actions, while Lee attempts to justify his killings as a necessity or deserved. Their feelings range from curiosity to fear and guilt. Both of them wonder if they could ever truly control who they are, or are they actually doomed to become like the eaters they fear. Marin eventually locates her mother. She was in a mental institution. To Marin's surprise, she bit off her own hand so she could prevent herself from eating people. Unable to bear living with her urges, her mother gave her a letter before attempting suicide right in front of her. Devastated, Marin realizes that her condition might be something that she may never escape. After a brief separation, Marin reunites with Lee and they decide to try living a normal life together. However, Sully reappears. He has been following Marin throughout her journey. He was now more unhinged and possessive that he tried attacking them. In a brutal struggle, Marin and Lee managed to kill Sully, but not before Lee got fatally wounded. As Lee lies dying, he asks Marin to eat him, bones and all. Though heartbroken that he was dying, Marin honors his request. The phrase bones and all means consuming someone entirely, both physically and mentally. Marin's love for Lee and the trauma of her journey at the ending of the movie completely changed her. She wasn't a monstrous killer, but a young woman who was struggling to understand why she was different. Lee and Marin's bond was built on shared trauma and loneliness, making them more than just predators. They were lost people searching for a belonging. Bones and All sets itself apart by making cannibalism a deeply personal and emotional journey. It also challenges the audience to empathize with its characters rather than fearing them. In conclusion, Bones and All reinvents what a cannibal film can be by turning a gruesome concept into something more human.